Hello and welcome to this 18th session of Davinci Resolve and our 5th session on color correction or color grading. Now in our previous session we had already discussed that color grading is basically divided into two categories. One is the corrective grading and another is the creative grading. And in corrective grading I had already told that there are two types of grading. One is the primary grading and second is the secondary grading. Now in our previous session we discussed about the primary grading and also about corrective grading, and in this session we are going to start with secondary grading. What is secondary grading? Secondary grading means in case of primary grading, whenever we are applying a color grade or any color effect, or whenever we are controlling the color wheel or curves, we are applying our effect to the entire frame. Whatever effect we are adding or whatever color correction we are doing, it will be applied to the complete frame, and this is called as primary grading. But in case of secondary grading, we are going to apply our effects or we are going to apply our color grading to a particular area of our image. Instead of doing the grading of the entire frame, we are going to do the grading to a particular area of our frame, and to achieve this we are going to use two types of techniques. One technique is called as masking. Just like if you have done Photoshop, you already know how you can mask an area of the photo and remove the background or add some effect. Similar to that, we do masking in Davinci Resolve, and for masking we make use of power windows in Davinci Resolve. And the second type of secondary grading that we are going to do is called as the keying technique. And in case of keying technique, we are going to make the selection based on the hue, saturation or luminance of the image. And to achieve this particular effect, we use the qualifier tool in Davinci Resolve to achieve this keying. So let us practice both these kind of secondary grading in this session. So to begin with, see that you have launched Resolve and open the project that actually we had concluded in the previous session. So now we are going to do the secondary grading to this second clip where you are seeing this dial. Now in this dial, actually I am seeing that the readings on the dial are not very clear. I want, because the most important thing that the user or the audience is going to see in this frame is this pressure gauge. I want this whatever reading you are seeing here to be very clear, and I want to make changes only to this dial. So whatever grading I am now going to apply should affect only this front dial. And here if you see this dial is circular. So to create this selection, just like in Photoshop or in any other raster and vector editing tool, we are going to select this using an ellipse tool. I want to isolate this secondary grading as a separate node here, or otherwise this becomes clumsy. So we have corrective, look and contrast. Now one thing is, whatever grading I am doing is corrective grading, but it is secondary grading. So now I am not going to add this corrective secondary grading node not at the end here, but I want to add it as soon as this corrective grade is applied. So I will select this first corrective grade, right click and choose add node and add serial. The keyboard shortcut is Alt plus S. So when I click on this, I will rearrange it a little. Now you can see that you have the contrast, you have the look, and you have a new node added between corrective and look. I will right click this and I am going to add a node label, and I am going to call this as scales, because this node will be applied to the scales. So, after I add the scales node, now the next thing is, in this node, with this node selected, I now want to make a selection of this dial, and as previously mentioned, I am going to do this using my, I will come to power windows first. So, instead of curve, color wrapper, qualifier, going to select this, that is the ellipse tool, and as soon as I click on this, you can see an ellipse is added over here. Now, what I want is, I want to place this ellipse exactly. I will press in the center, move it to the top and adjust it to the surface. Then I will move it down, or I will bring this to the center here, to this knob. See, the center dial knob, I use it as the center point, and then I will drag it to the right like this, okay, and slightly I have to move it to the left. Now, here one thing is, I want to precisely place this. Remember, when I bring my mouse inside this shape, it changes into pan tool. I can just left click and move it. I can move the shape like this and adjust it. And if I come to the corner, I can pull it and make it larger. However, here you can see the bottom area I am not able to see clearly. So, what I will do is, I will come and collapse this timeline, and I will also okay, so I will just also off this clips, so that I have more area. I can drag it like this, okay. I will also drag it and make it a little big here, and now I have more space, and now I will just drag it. So, when I want to pan the screen, I will middle mouse press the middle mouse, then I can pan the screen and adjust it. I will slightly move it to the top, and now I will move this and see that these two edges are correctly placed and the top edge is also correctly placed. On the bottom edge, I will adjust it slightly and move it. Say for example, if I want to rotate it, I can bring the mouse here and I can even rotate this, okay. Right now, I doesn't need any rotation. I will click here. What I feel is, this is almost perfect. However, if you want to very precisely control this, then I can convert this shape into a bezier. So, for this, I will come to this power window, and in options here, if I click, you can see here an option, convert to bezier. When I click on it, this will get converted into a shape, and now I can select every point precisely and I can drag it and place it like this. See, I can precisely move it and place it like this, see, like this. And if required, every point here has two handles. This is to control the angles. So, I will move it and see that this shape, I will slightly drag it here. So, sits exactly, see, exactly it should sit and cover this dial. So, like this, I am going to first make a precise selection of only the dial. So, like this, I will precisely select only the dial. So, I have made only the dial selection. Okay, this shape I find it to be fine. So, now what I will do is, to avoid this shape appearing in my screen, I will come to this curves panel, and once I select the curves panel, you can see the selection is now gone. I am now going to do the color grading only to this dial, and when it comes to dial, the first thing that I am now going to do is I am slightly going to make it brighter. How am I going to do it? By adjusting the gamma. I will come back to this and select the color wheel, and then selecting the wheel I will slightly drag it to the right and make it 0.02. So, now you can see this has become slightly brighter. Okay, I have set this to 0.02, and after setting this to 0.02, I also want this dial to be more contrast so that I can see the numbers correctly. So, what I will do is I will drag the contrast level and I will make it and increase it to something like 1.22. Okay. So, I will make it 1.222. I will make this brightness, and the next thing I want to adjust here is I want to change the actual that is this pivot point, so that when contrast is changed, automatically we will set the pivot point also. So, I will move the pivot point back to something like 1.89. So, now you can see it has become more brighter. So, after changing this, I will also increase its midterm detail so that the dials are clearly visible. I will make it to around 35. Okay. So, with these changes, now you can see the dial is appearing bright and also clear. So, if you want to see what are the changes, I can come over here to the scale, and if I press Ctrl D or click on this number, if I disable this, this was without our secondary grading, and when I enable it, this is with the secondary grading. So, you can now see how bright and clear the dial has become, and whatever change we have applied, it has applied only to this dial. Okay, now I have made this brighter, everything is fine. Now, one thing now is, if you see the edges here, see the edges, it appears little sharp. That is, my masked edges and the unmasked area, this division is very sharp. I want to soften this division. So, to soften this, I will come back to power windows, and I am going to, now this is selected. Only thing is, now what is happening is this bezeir or this shape is obstructing me to judge my image. So, for this what I will do is I will come over here, you have various options here, and I will choose off. So, when I choose off, this display goes away, and now I will come to softness here, and in softness I will make it, you can see the edges changing. I will set its softness to around 1.5, okay, approximately 1.5, so that this transition between this mask will have this softness applied. So, now if I go back and enable this power window, you can see this is the window. Okay, with this grade applied, now the next thing I want to do is, actually this shot is not a steady shot. Now, what has happened is, see, we have applied our, I will come back here and enable power windows. So, whatever this we have applied, see, when I move this, you can see as the movement is happening, you can see the shape is not moving. See, this area is moving. I want the shape to move as the camera is moving. So, for this I will come to the first point of the screen, and if required I will readjust this point so that it is precisely placed like this. Okay. So, it is precisely placed, and once it is precisely placed, now this is a moving shot. Now, what I want is, I want this shape to move along with my camera as the camera moves. So, if I press the loop button and if I play it, you can see the camera is moving. I want my shape to move along with this. So, I will stop it, stop the playback and come to the beginning. So, I will come to the beginning here, and then now what I am now going to do is, I will come to the next window to this power windows, which we call as the tracker. I am going to click on the tracker, and once I click on the tracker, you have the option to check what all parameters you want to be tracked. Pan, tilt, zoom, rotate, 3D, I have enabled everything. And now once everything is enabled here, now only thing is, you have a playback control here at the top. If I just click the play button now, what happens is, I will just click on the play button, see, it tracked the movement. See, I can see it automatically tracked, and now you can see the shape that I have created is moving along with my camera. So, it is so simple that I can use this AI driven tracking in Davinci Resolve to quickly move my shape as the camera is moving. Okay. So, now we have applied this tracker. Now, the next thing that I want here is, I will enable this power window to off. Now, the next thing I want here is, actually I want the corners of my frame to be slightly darkened, so that the focus is on this dial, and making the corners of your screen dark is by using an effect called vignette. It is spelled as vignett, vignette. And this vignette effect, actually what it does is, it is like a mask we normally use, or it is also called as a map box. And when we use this map box in front of our camera lens, the edges are going to get darkened, so that our focus is on the center object. Now, we are going to create the same vignette effect, not using a map box in front of the lens, but we are going to virtually or digitally create it. And to create this, I am going to use a new node. And now, the place I am going to add my new node will be after this contrast. So, after this contrast, I am going to right click, and I am going to choose the option node, add node, and I will add a serial node. So, here you can see the node is added here. See, the node can be at any place like this, but only thing is, these connections are what is very important. So, it is moving from corrective to scales to look to contrast, and then this one I will right click, and I am going to add the node label, and I am going to call this as vignett, vignette effect. And then if I want to rearrange it, say for example, if I want to only this node icons. So, you have actually a slider here. If I drag this slider, you can see the nodes become smaller. I have drawn two stops to the left. Now, I can drag these things correctly and place it in one line like this. So, my next thing is adding, I have selected this vignette node, and I am going to add the vignette filter. So, now to add this vignette, I will come back to my power windows and I will again click here to add an ellipse, and after I add the ellipse, I am now going to drag this full screen like this, edge to edge like this, and also top to bottom like this. Okay. And if required, I will roll the mouse down to zoom it out a little. Now, only thing is, I want these edges to be soft. Okay. So, now we adjusted the soft in our parameters here last time, but here what I can also do is, apart from the main line, you have two additional lines here, and I can use this line. See, I will just adjust it and place it correctly to the center like this, and after placing it, you have a red icon here. If required, I will zoom out. If I drag this, you can see the softness is changing. So, in the window also you can see how the softness is changing. I will slightly increase the softness like this. And now, to just see how the mask is appearing on the screen, I will come to the top here and choose the option highlight. So, when I choose the option highlight here, you can see how this mask is going to work, and if required, I will come here and enable power windows, and with this mask on, I can slightly readjust it based on this reference. Okay. So, this will give you a reference mask, and once it is fine, I will come back here and enable image wipe, and I will click on it again to disable it. Okay. So, now I have added my power window selection. Okay. So, now once I have added this, so if required, I will come back here and enable again this highlight mode. If required, I want it to be more placed to the corner. So, I will come here and enable power window, and if required, I will slightly drag it like this, so that these edges are actually finely placed. So, I will then switch off this power window, and when I switch it off, now you can see that this is the area that we want it to get darker. Now, as it is, if you take the selection and if you want to make it darker, one of the way to make it darker is to decrease the gamma value. So, if I move it to the left and if I make it dark, you can see the center of the image is darkening. That is not what I want. I want these edges to be darkened. So, if I come here, I will click here and I will choose image white. See, you can see here now the center of the screen is becoming dark, but I want it to be reversed. Then come to the power window, and in power window, in this ellipse selection, you have an option here called invert. So, if I click on invert, now you can see that the edges are now dark and it has created a vignette effect. Now, say for example, I have the vignette effect, I will come back to clips and enable it, and now say I want to add the same vignette effect to this aeroplane shot also. Then how I can do is, I will come back to this previous one, and in the power windows, if I come to the option, you have an option here called save as new preset. I can select this and I create a preset called as vignette. And now what happens is, if I want to apply this, say for example to this aeroplane, then I can come here, and if I choose vignette, then automatically this effect will be added. So, now once I enable and select the vignette, I will come back to power window. See, this shape has already been applied. Okay. So, right now I have applied the mask to the previous one. So, the mask is now getting applied only to the outside area. Okay. This is just an example I shown. I can go back to edit and undo it, so that we have removed this mask. Okay. Okay, now I will come back to this dial and I will disable this power window. I will make it off and see, this is our final clip. So, you can see now thus we have this beautiful effect created by using this vignette. Okay. So, I will come to file, choose save project. So, with this I am now going to conclude this session. So, in this session we learnt about secondary color grading and we did this secondary color grading using masks, and for applying masks the window that we use in Davinci Resolve is the power window. So, with this I conclude this session, and in the next session we are going to do the secondary grading using the keying technique. So, for that let us meet in our next session. Thank you.